Welcome back to LDF-Designs. In today's video, I am doing some experimenting. Another artist had seen some of my videos with the glass vases and attempted to apply chalk paint to the glass instead of the rice paper, and said that she had some pretty successful results, so I decided to try it myself. I prepped some glass vases ahead of time with some chalk paint, and then I went ahead and applied some wall compound or joint compound to the vases to give them a little more texture and just a little more body for the encaustic to soak into. So at this point, all of that has dried, and I am now trying to color the plaster or the wall joint compound that I applied to the vase. I was attempting to make a wash, but I got it a little too wet, too sticky, and I found out that it reactivated the joint compound. So as I continued to work this, I kind of ended up rubbing some of it off, some of the compound off the drywall mud, and eventually just kind of started dabbing the different paint and ink and graphite powder onto the vase. I have a container there that is watered down Sumi ink, but it's been sitting for a while, so actually the ink is all settled, so the water isn't quite as dark as I anticipated. But as I started this off, it seemed like I had really done a bad thing, but I kept working it and eventually got it covered up and had some texture, had some body, and was able to continue on with the encaustic. As you watch this video, you're definitely going to notice that I did several steps off camera in the making of this vase. Couple reasons for that, one of which I did have some things going on at the house today, and so it was taking my attention away, so sometimes I was turning the camera off and forgetting to turn it back on, but all of the main parts are there. I basically finished covering that and let it dry overnight or a day or two, and then I went ahead and came back and started applying the encaustic to the surface of the vase. I really expected those darker areas where the drywall compound and the other colors of chalk paint and ink are to become darker as I fused it, and it really didn't get as dark as I expected. But in the end, I'm kind of glad it didn't. You could still see some of the texture in the drywall mud that I created, and I thought that was pretty cool. If you're watching my vase process for the first time, please note that the glass does absorb the heat quickly and it does become very, very hot. So you want to work slowly, make sure that you're going to be very patient, and just be extra cautious not to burn yourself or overheat the glass. I recently was at a little market, and they had this whole huge pallet full of these little round rollers for really, really cheap, and so they caught my attention, and I went and bought a whole bag full of them, and have discovered that I can make all kinds of shapes, especially circles, with the wax by dipping the sponge into the wax and then applying it onto the surface. I really love the texture that it creates. That same market had these really long, I don't know, they're probably 2 feet long rollers, and these have a real plastic, little bristles on them, I guess. So I went ahead and got a couple of those also and cut one up and was trying to use that to make some marks. It is making some marks, but maybe not quite what I was hoping it was going to do. And then of course I have my handy dandy pizza roller. You can get a pizza roller at the dollar store for, again, pretty inexpensive, and they are fantastic for making really thin lines. So once I got a bunch of marks on there, I went ahead and pulled out some of my oil paints. I have an indigo, a Payne's gray, and some white. I did put a little bit of all three onto my little paper here, but I did just use the Payne's gray mixed with white. I ended up not using the indigo. I really, really love the tone of this kind of blue-gray that it created, and probably plan to make some more things using these colors. Sometimes I feel like a large part of my videos are just me rubbing, paints and oils and tar onto my surfaces and then wiping them back off, and that's a big part of the video. So I did try to skip through those parts a little bit. Oftentimes when I have my filler onto my surface, I'll then still take tools and make more marks. Sometimes it helps me see the marks a little bit better, or place where I want to add some accents. Some other things that may be skipped, I do fuse when I put the filler onto the surface. I do give it a light fuse and let it cool a bit. In this case, I was going ahead and applying a little more encaustic and just cleaning up a few areas, and wanted to go ahead and start applying some white encaustic on top of what I was doing here. I was using a fan brush because I really didn't want to cover the entire surface, and sometimes a fan brush is a great way to get some wax onto the surface without covering everything up that you've done on the previous layer. I had a lot of horizontal work on the piece, so I kind of was purposefully putting this white encaustic on in a vertical layer, and I did go back and clean up some of the heavier spots, but generally my intention was to keep these lines, these vertical lines, at least to have an essence of them as I continue to build the piece. I wanted to bring a little bit of an earth tone into this. I thought that the colors would really play well with each other, so went ahead and pulled out that tar that I have, and again, it kind of sits open in the air. I do have a container of it that's sealed up, but I usually leave this little cup out, and then I add a little bit of vegetable oil with it, and it just loosens it enough to create a tone of color that you can add to the surface. I loved how it was looking, and you'll see here in a moment as I started to clean it off, it actually kind of overtook the Payne's Gray more so than I expected. Again, this whole piece has been an experiment, but as you'll see, I continue to work it until I get it to where I'm happy with it. I do find that these blue shop towels that you can buy at an auto store or maybe even at a Walmart work pretty well with the tar, a little bit better than just a regular paper towel. They have a little more absorbency to them. I definitely really liked where this was going, but I was really surprised how just that little tiny bit of white encaustic in that tar tone really covered up all of the blue. So at this point, and also my vertical lines, I liked them, but they were still a little too prominent. So I had what would be considered a little bit of a dry encaustic brush, meaning I wrung most of the encaustic out of it and let it dry in the air for a few seconds, and then went ahead and applied that to the surface just to create some more texture and to help seal in some of those previous layers. And then, as you can see, I decided to go ahead and do another layer of the Payne's Gray mixed with white. I'm using a plastic straw to create some circles. I didn't want them to be super noticeable, but I wanted them to kind of mimic the larger circles that I created at the top of the vase. So I went ahead and did that with this blue or Payne's Gray on the surface. And then once I get that cleaned off of there, I'm actually going to incise some more lines in between those larger circles at the top, and I go ahead and fill those in just with the straight, deep, dark Payne's Gray to give a little contrast to the piece, which you'll see momentarily. I do have a garnish that I was planning to put on this and had intended to all along, and once I get this process here done, I'll go ahead and show you a picture of what it looks like with the garnish. I will have better pictures of this vase. I did do a couple more things to it off camera at the end, but I really like where it turned out, and I have some pictures over on my Instagram or Facebook page if you'd like to see them there. Thank you for coming along on this experimental journey today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Give me a like and a subscribe, and we'll see you the next time.